So, Tomas, it's been such a pleasure having you moderate this year, your second year at Istanbul Sustainable Brands. I'd love to ask you just a couple of questions. So, the first is I'd love to hear from you how you would define what it means to be a sustainable brand.
I think we should actually maybe stop talking about sustainable brands in general and just call it brands, because I think going forward, companies just need to realize that sustainability and brands should be integrated. So I don't think it makes much sense talking about a sustainable brand anymore. It should just be, a brand.
And what would be true about that brand responding to the future?
I think just at some of the topics we talked about today, I think purpose is probably one of the big ones, having a purposeful brand and really creating this shift away from creating wants to actually solving needs. I think that's kind of the shift in mentality that these brands need to have. And I think also one of the things that had been emerging at this conference is the change and the move away from talking about consumers to talk about peers or allies or people or citizens, whatever you want to call them. So I think there's a lot of changes happening for brands and companies these days. So it's good to be here and to keep up with some of those changes.
What do you see as some of the largest or the primary challenges that brands have to overcome to respond to future needs and really where they should be going in the future?
I think there's quite a few, to be honest. It's a challenge for a lot of brands, and I think especially a lot of the big brands, a lot of the big multinationals are really being challenged. Because the whole way the communication and media landscape is working is really dramatically changing. What people are expecting from brands and companies are rapidly changing. What people expect from their products, the innovations and the services are changing. And what I'm really fascinated about these days are, it's really becoming like a bottom-up thing, where people are really demanding change. And if companies are not really delivering the service and the products they want, they make them themselves through crowdfunding platforms or, these small pop-up businesses, craft beer movements, guys who do their own bakeries and all that stuff. So, if brands aren't delivering, people are going to deliver themselves. And to be honest, it's much easier for me to go down to my local corner store. I probably know the guy. I don't need a CSR sustainability report because, trust comes by his first name. So it's a really, really challenging environment now for brands.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you're CEO, if I'm not mistaken, of Goodvertising, yes?
Yes.
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
Yeah. The founder and CEO, very impressive, at Goodvertising.
Yeah.
And would be curious on your perspectives of how the advertising industry is needing to shift and change to adapt to the future imperatives for brands.
Back in, 2012, I started the Goodvertising movement. I wrote the book, and I've really seen quite an amazing shift in some of the conversations happening now globally, especially within the big brands. So to be honest, I think that the brands and traditional marketeers are actually quite in tune with some of these things, whereas some of the agencies are really lagging behind. So I would really encourage more agencies to be more engaged around sustainability issues. I don't think they do enough. I don't think they are acting responsibly enough and taking the voice impact that they have seriously enough. So I'll pass on the challenge to the agencies and say, get your acts together, because the brands need you at this point, and it doesn't seem like they're really responding.
Yeah. So today there have been a lot of conversations around quest and purpose, or why you do what you do. So turning the mirror back a little bit at your company, why do you do what you do?
I started out as an advertising guy, and for me, having spent 10, 12 years in advertising, I suddenly thought to myself, what am I really doing? What are my contribution to the world around me? And I thought a little bit, ridiculous about wasting my time promoting, sometimes products and services that I actually didn't really believe in myself, that I probably didn't even want to buy myself. So for me, it was pretty much around COP15 in Copenhagen, where I put my faith into governments to say, I hope they can, finally get this climate agreement in place. So my expectations were really high, and they, as we all know, just disappointed. And so I think the thing I took with me from my advertising background was really to see brands as a vehicle for change. Brands have so strong relationships with us, and I think they can use that as a positive force for good. And I think, brands owning up to that and really nurturing that potential. There's so much to be done in that space. We've heard Dirk from BASF yesterday talk about sustainability as a business driver, which I think is a really interesting concept. And I think for me personally, sustainability has really been a driver for creativity. I think my business has become much more creative. We're not just only working in the comms field. We work with innovation, we work with partnerships, we work with collaboration and more collaborative stuff. So just seeing myself coming from a more traditional advertising background, I even see my own canvas really expanding as a company, and I think that's something that I think a lot of companies could learn from, that if we need to tackle some of these challenges, we need to have a more 360-degree view on the world, and so it's a really exciting time.
Cool, and thank you. My final question is, it's great to have you be a consistent presence at this conference now 2 years in a row, and you've been privy to the conversations this year and last year. How have you seen the conversations among Turkish brands maybe evolve or develop in that time?
Of course, it's just going to be a comment on what I've seen here at the conference and what I've observed, but I think it's a much more mature market, I would say, in terms of some of the conversations happening here. And I think for Turkish company, there's really an opportunity to find their own space in this discussion. Instead of always, maybe as a Turkish market, they feel a little bit, are we, lacking behind Europe? Are we lacking behind the US? And I think instead of, focusing so much on that, they should actually think about how can we actually find and develop our own Turkish voice around sustainability. And I think that's a huge possibility. And one of the projects that I absolutely loved, I know Unilever is being mentioned so many times when we talk about sustainability and brands, but in 2014, Unilever brought these amazing, cheerful, singing, tea-picking ladies onto stage to talk about some of their commitments to the tea industry. And this year, seeing how those commitments have actually turned into tangible innovations, and very fascinated that they brought a design on board as well to show this new tea-picking tool that would actually do a lot for the day-to-day work of all these tea-picking ladies. And I think, again, sometimes we forget the role of design in all of this. I think designers have a huge role and a huge opportunity to play in this sustainability area, for them to look at systems and products and service and really re-engineer them for a smarter and more fun, sustainable future. So that was one of the more exciting learnings, to see actually some of the commitments I talked about last year is actually bringing fruits with them here in 2015. So I'm very excited for 2016 for the Turkish market. And as I said as well, I think Turkish companies need to develop their own sense of urgency and their own voice in all of this, because I think they have so many opportunities.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Really a pleasure.
Thank you.